first up, we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs right guard, Trey Smith, number 65 right here. He is an upcoming free agent. I think, he might have just made a Pro Bowl, or he might be I'm not sure if he actually made it in or not, but there's stuff on his tape that you see where you go, okay, you can work with that. Like he can absolutely control guys start to finish, dominate them throughout the rep. But one thing I noticed throughout his tape, and we'll get to just like watching it here and get thoughts, but my initial thoughts watching it were, this guy's not a finished product yet. There are a lot of ups and downs still. It almost reminds me a little bit of like Tevin Jenkins' tape last year, where it was like, okay, there's still stuff for him to straighten out, but you know what? He wrecks guys. And I think he comes with fewer of the health concerns that you get with that you had with Tevin Jenkins, especially now.
Definitely. Yeah, and to your point, Q, just to confirm, he is one of the 3 offensive guard selections for the AFC Pro Bowl team. So he is a Pro Bowler this year, joined by Joe Thuney, who in this case is playing left tackle because he's just a badass. And I know you and I talked about that separately, and Creed Humphrey as well. So 3 Kansas City offensive linemen are making the Pro Bowl. Everybody wonders why Kansas City's only got 1 loss on the season, Q. When you got 3 Pro Bowlers up front, that usually helps.
Yeah. And so with this one, I just watched their second most recent game, their Christmas Day game against the Steelers, because that's a strong defensive line. And I went through my normal grading and pulled every positive and negative play, negatively graded play that I had in here. On this one, I thought that he did a pretty nice job off the combo. Let's see here. So combo, he got into it, generated a little movement. I think his hands might have been a little off, but got that guy 2-gapping to the wrong side. But I would have liked to see him get some more punch there on the linebacker. I think he did a good enough job, but I think this one I might have given him a neutral grade on, but I wanted to include it to show that second level kind of, he makes some space, but I'd like to see him get a little more oomph in there, a little earlier with his punch.
Yeah, I think you certainly, especially when it comes to the second level, but I think you have to be happy and impressed with what he and Creed Humphrey are able to do at the first level first, right? Mm-hmm. Taking care of business, getting a lot of movement on that down lineman. And you can see it. I think their rules got a little messed up here because you see him looking out like their objective in the stack is not Patrick Queen. And I think then they end up having to readjust, and eventually he just takes Queen trying to make a play there. Really good play by Patrick Queen. He's no schmuck, obviously. Really good linebacker for the Steelers now, obviously former Baltimore Raven. But overall, man, you got to be happy with that movement. I mean, he's getting to the second level. He's giving him a good look. Queen's a sneaky one, man. He makes a play and scrapes over the top.
And I thought he does a nice job trying to finish on most reps, and he doesn't end up on the ground a whole lot either, which is nice to see. This one, he gets worked here by Keanu Benton, and that this is where I say there's some inconsistencies in his game. His run blocking, there is a decent amount of inconsistency, and still he has all the traits to be a really strong run blocker from everything I've seen. But just technique-wise, I think there's some stuff to clean up there, and maybe just general awareness of, how guys are going to throw hands at him, what moves guys are going to bring to him. Because, like, right here, he just got worked. Like, the play was probably DOA regardless, but it didn't help that he got tossed by Keanu Benton.
Yeah, and Keanu Benton, certainly not a schmuck, right? You put it perfectly. This Steelers front is probably one of the better fronts in the league. And you got to like the start of it. I mean, he's got a good punch initially. He gets into him, but he lets Benton get those shoulder pads, and that's part of the reason he's able to just get tossed like that. And Trey Smith, a big guy, to me, Q, I mean, feels like a little bit of a non-traditional guard. I mean, he's 6'6", 320. Like, that's almost tackle size.
He was a tackle in college.
Yeah. And you can definitely see it. I mean, he's a big dude. And, that might be part of what is playing into some of his run blocking inconsistencies, because run blocking as a guard versus run blocking as a tackle are very, very different.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I think we see that a little bit with Matt Pryor at times right now playing.
Definitely.
Bears. Similar size here to Trey Smith, but Pryor's a little more lumbering with his size. So this one, he does a great job of generating that movement and sticking with it. This is just a few reps later after he got tossed. So this one, I felt like he really just generated that power through his core and is just able to push Benton just right out of the run lane there and keep it moving.
I think on top of it too, I like how Smith, and even on all these reps, even the reps that he hasn't looked the best on, he's able to finesse his body where he wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we saw very little of that with the Bears in our film reviews over the course of the year, Q, where guys would want to go somewhere and they just wouldn't get there. They wouldn't get their body positioning where they wanted to be. Every single one of these, Trey Smith in this case, on the inside shoulder of Benton, pushing him out of the hole. On the last one, doing the same thing, ultimately got tossed, but still in that right state of mind, trying to cover him up. I think just the body placement and positioning is such a difference that we don't see right now with the current Bears offensive line, outside of maybe on occasion a guy like Darnell Wright.
Yeah, this torque and drive right here. There's a reason I keep rewinding it back to it. Like, that's what I'm seeing. And you're right. Like, I mean, I think last year with Tevin, you saw a lot more of that than you've seen this year, where I think you've seen Tevin struggle to generate his power from unideal positions, where it's something you saw all over Trey Smith's week 17 tape of like, yeah, he's generating power from any position he's in and really able to. And to me, that's one of the biggest traits I look for in offensive linemen is how do they generate power when they're out of position, out of ideal space, out of balance. And it's something that I think Trey Smith shows a good ability to do.
And that's one right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as he's falling over, you see the legs still churning, still getting that push, still able to completely leverage his man out of the hole. And this is just really nice blocking from him and Jawan Taylor, too. I know Jawan Taylor kind of gets forgotten about on this Kansas City offensive line, but still a very good right tackle. And, I mean, he's getting that push all the way through the end of the play. I mean, you gotta be happy about that. And, obviously in a perfect case scenario, right, you're like, well, maybe if Taylor was able to see, scrape it over the top. But, I mean, again, they take care of first level first, Smith, but that power right there, and you can see it. I mean, he is almost completely horizontal to the ground and he's still getting movement.
You'd love to see that angle right there.
I
mean, I don't know if you necessarily love to see it, but like in this scenario, given what they faced here, like I love to see that play power, that play effort of just like, I am going to drive this guy off the field no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. That extra effort, especially in a non-ideal instance.
Yeah. And this one, again, this is where it's like that he's in an awkward position. I mean, that is, that's not ideal right there, but he's able to get his hands in place, set down and start hopping back. Like, you don't love that, but like the fact that he's able to get into that position and hold on to his guy, like that's from the position he was in. That's decent. That's probably good recovery in my mind.
Agreed. And again, I think we, at times this year with the Bears, now, mind you, I believe that is Hayward working on him here when he starts to get bull rushed as well. So it's not just your every average NFL defensive lineman. This is one of the best pass rushers, one of the best defensive linemen, period, in football. I feel like we saw so many times guys like Tev and guys like Braxton, where they would try to get into that hop back and they never could because they were so off balance. And they never could get to that anchor. They could never get to the anchor. Trey Smith has no problem getting to the anchor, even if he is getting beat. He's at least able to get to the anchor and start to slow down the progress of whoever it is that's trying to bull rush him. And that's exactly what you see here with Hayward trying to go against him.
And I do like the process here. He throws a hand, recognizes, wait, this guy isn't trying to come at me, flips his head over and says, well, I got this guy coming. Like, his body position was a little slow, but his recognition up here I thought was on time.
Yeah, and honestly, if you are a somewhat technically sound offensive lineman, but you have that high IQ and that recognition and just that intelligence and awareness on the offensive line, that can make up for a lot of deficiencies in your actual game, especially on reps when you're going against guys who are probably going to be in Canton, Ohio once they're retired.
Yeah. Let's see what happens on this one. So he has nobody. I think that he just finishes the guy here. Yeah,
Love it.
this was just an angry rep, which I
Yeah.
give pluses for these reps because that's not required.
No.
That's a demeanor thing, and I want to see that demeanor in offensive linemen that are playing for the Bears.
And can we talk too about that last play? I know it's just him finishing off at the end, but
Mhm.
I think it's the extra dose of nasty at the end too.
Yeah,
Because and good recognition too, right? He's got 51. 51's his guy. 51 bails. You immediately see that head snap to the right. So he knows where he's going. He knows who he's helping. He's coming after Taylor because he knows that's TJ Watt outside.
yeah,
Comes, finishes him off, and then as Juwan Taylor is getting pulled down by TJ Watt at the end of this play, you'll see Watt get his hand up in kind of the neck, chest, or neck kind of shoulder pad area.
Mhm.
Trey Smith goes down with him and just bullies him and finishes him off at the end. It's that extra dose of nasty that we really haven't seen out of the Bears this year. That's something that is incredibly welcome, because if you continue to punish these pass rushers rep after rep after rep, that's going to wear them down in the fourth quarter when they're trying to make that game-saving sack or that, game-saving tip of the ball on a pass rush. That's going to break them down when you got guys as big as Trey Smith just bodying a guy as small as TJ Watt. TJ Watt compared to Trey Smith size-wise is a huge mismatch.
right. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of weight falling on him with two guys instead of one. Like it's almost saying, hey, if you're gonna drag him down, I'm gonna make you feel it at the same time.
I'm coming with you. Yeah,
you made this choice. I'm just capitalizing it.
That's about 600 pounds of man falling on TJ Watt right there.
Let's see what we got on this one up against. I think it's Ogunjobi there, 97.
Chicago Bears should have been.
No, 97 might still be Hayward. I think Ogunjobi's 99. Oh, so this one I thought he was a little slow to get back to the right side here off of helping Creed Humphrey and inside to helping Taylor.
Yeah, I think part of the issue too, though, here
Taylor gets really wide and deep there too. I mean,
he does, and we also don't know what the protection is.
Yeah.
So this might be a case where Trey Smith is your slide guy. And because you see it, he's keeping his eyes on the backer initially. I don't think that's necessarily his responsibility, but
he's even looking at number 6 or 8 up there too. Like,
yeah,
you can see he's looking at 50. And then
I applaud him for feeling the pressure coming from Watt and seeing color and trying to help make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And still gets back and gets a hand on his original man. I mean, it's not pretty. It's a little bit of a spin cycle kind of block, but you get a big play on the other end of it too, because they're able to keep Mahomes clean long enough to get to Watson on the deep go route.
Yeah, I did knock him on that play, but I mean, that one was I was questioning it, as I'm writing it down, but I have a question on it.
Screen. Oh, yeah, same.
Yeah, he just
athlete, big man trying to get out of the way.
So I knocked him on this. I don't remember if it was the angle that I thought could have been better. I think it was his hesitation, and maybe it was selling it, but right about here, it just felt like I didn't like the way that he's playing that with 97. I thought that was light, and I thought he was slow to get out here. Now, granted, it looks like he's supposed to be protecting backside first, but I thought he could have reached that safety corner, whatever it is there, had he, had a little more urgency off the screen, and he ends up taking a blow because of it. There was a little bit of some awareness stuff that I saw on his tape that made me pause a little. And part of the reason why I say I don't think he's a finished product, and I think he can get better still.
Absolutely. Let's remind people, Q, he was a 6th round pick.
Yeah.
He wasn't polished coming out of college. This isn't a guy like Darnell Wright, who was a top 10 selection in the NFL draft. He was a guy who's come from adversity and turned himself into a very nice pro, and now a Pro Bowler here in 2024. I agree with you. I think there is still a lot of ability for him to grow. I believe he's only 25 years old right now. I got the number up in front of me. Yeah, he's 25 right now. He'll be 26 at the start of next season. Like, that is absolutely an offensive lineman that has room for development. I will say, I'll give him a little bit of leniency on that play of getting to the safety, because not everybody's Minka Fitzpatrick, and it's hard to get to a guy like Minka.
Mhm.
He's an all-pro for a reason, right? So, you applaud the effort there. I agree. I definitely think the awareness aspect, but Q, I'll tell you this. He's got better awareness than probably 80% of the Bears offensive line currently does.
Yeah. Well, and so to your point, he was a 6th-round pick. If I remember right, he was projected a 2nd or 3rd. And then
He had an injury, though, right?
a pulmonary emboli or blood clots in his lungs that scared a bunch of teams away from him. You're signing him. You do have to be aware of that and cautious of that, because there is a chance that does. I'm not a doctor. I can't sit here and say that it might come back, but like, your medical staff needs to be on top of it, because there is some perceived risk there, whether that's real risk or not. Gotta talk to a doctor.
Do we trust the Bears medical staff to be able to take care of Trey Smith?
I don't trust them very much at all. So that's
I don't
a whole
either.
different question. But I mean, hey, the guy's played 4 years in the league without a single issue.
Agreed.
With it. So that has to be a good sign. But
Definitely.
let's see what we got from him on this rep here.
Bang.
He has that power that you look for. Like I said, there are certain guys when you're watching draft tape where you're saying you see it like that. You're like, that guy's he's got the strength to play. And Trey Smith instantly has that. There's no question about it. He can dominate grown ass men on an NFL football field, and he has those flashes on his tape pretty consistently. It's just it's a matter of making some of the negatives become less consistent.
Agreed. I think what's most impressive too about his strength, and you see it on this play, is he's off balance and still is able to absolutely throw 57.
Yeah. He's got that. I mean, I always think about that as like just core strength, right?
Yeah,
like
he's got that. He's just got that fuck you strength. Like,
right
that's
here,
just what it is.
That is all just midsection rotation of like, you're going down. Like, and he has it in spades.
Yeah. Because this is nasty. I mean, he just launches him into the dirt. Like, there's very, very few offensive linemen that have that strength in the NFL. Or at least that display it like that on a regular basis, especially with the combined athleticism to be off balance when making said play.
Now, this play,
I think Creed Humphrey just gets beat here.
Yeah.
I also think Trey Smith's being held.
Yeah, Creed Humphrey totally just gets beat here. And I did this a few days ago when I broke this stat, or when I put this all together, so I didn't quite remember what was happening. This is why I marked it down, because he fell.
Sniper. Yeah.
You go down, you get a negative. It's just kind of as simple as that for me. Like, because the way I see it, if a guy goes down once in a game, it's not going to impact his grade that badly. But if he goes down 4 times, I want it to impact his grade negatively. Like, it's I want to see that in the numbers.
Sure. Yeah, and this is a little bit of a sniper shot. I think you could argue that Taylor just is walking on his heels, but and then Taylor falls on top of him to add insult to injury. But just kind of a botched play. But agreed. Again, you want a guy to be able to keep his feet. So it can't be all sunshine.
Early hand usage. Oh, on this. So I wanted your thoughts on this one, because they cover this stunt decently, but not the way that I would expect them to, I guess. But a lot of it's because Taylor gets so much depth. I mean, he's just, and maybe that's just game plan against TJ Watt. Like, hey, you're getting depth no matter what, and we'll work with it from there. But I expected this to be handled a little differently, whether it was Trey Smith getting more depth or whatnot, because it just ends up muddying up that pocket big time.
Yeah, it's tough because, to your point, Juwan Taylor as an offensive lineman is very big in the vertical drop. That's just what he does. That's his game. That's why he has the goofy ass stance that people giggle about. Like in the first game, Yeah, the pigeon toed. I would know. I had a weird pigeon toed stance like that too when I was in college, especially playing on the left side of the line. It
If you
sometimes
don't
you need
catch
that.
what we're talking about, we are talking about that
Mhm.
and that. Like,
And the reason for that for a lot of guys, it's a lot easier to push off the outside of your foot and then still be able to keep your shoulders square because then you can settle and come back in and still have a strong inside leg. So that's why he does that.
yeah,
And that's what he does here. I think this is just the case of the game plan against TJ Watt because he lines up so outside is to cut him off. So you want to vertical set him. And if he just starts coming inside, Taylor does a perfect job. You just wash him down the line. It just coincidentally, TJ Watt does a nice job of taking out both Trey Smith's hip and Creed Humphrey's hip. And that, I think, in turn is what muddies the pocket. So wouldn't necessarily blame Smith for anything here because he's impacted, but I mean, he still gets back to Benton and still lays a hand on him. And I mean, they largely kept Mahomes clean on the play. I know this ends up becoming I think it's a pick end up for clean on this play. I remember watching this in live action when it happened, but punish jumpers. Got to punish jumpers, Q, and they don't do
jumpers.
it. Got to punish jumpers, and
I just saw that Brandon Thorne's coming out with a shirt that says that, and I'm 100% buying
punish jumpers.
Yeah.
Send me the link. I want one too.
little plug for Brandon Thorne there.
I love Brandon Thorne. If you're a sicko and like O-line content, Brandon Thorne is a must follow.
Hey man, he commented on my Jake Curran breakdown a few weeks ago, so I was very proud of that.
Hell yeah. We should that's a dude we should get on this show. That would be a lot of fun.
Love that. Yeah, this one I love the early hands and the power behind those hands. Like, it's not the power isn't necessarily the punch here, but it's the torque, the toss that's just I like it.
It's the early hands and it's the aggressive hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you gotta love there. Because again, you can throw your hands and get your hands on a guy and make a quality block. But it's that little extra level of nasty that's going to beat guys up over the course of a game. If anybody would know it, I have a terrible tendency if you play against me in Turkey Bowl, if you're a D lineman, you are going to leave Turkey Bowl with bruises here because I punch people no matter you wear shoulder pads or not. Same thing goes here, man. Right? Like these guys are going to feel that over the course of a 60-minute game.
So I heard a story on the O-line committee podcast the other day where it was like, it's a former offensive lineman, and he said he was in the gym, and there's a guy who always talks to him in the gym. He's like, I think I can get around you. Like, I think I can do it. And like, he's like, okay, give it a try. And so he sets, and then he's like, I don't even realize because I've been doing it for so long that like, I have to remember sometimes my hands are weapons. Like,
oh yeah,
I just instinctually I punched the shit out of this guy in his shoulder, and he was like shocked by it, and I was just like, shit, I shouldn't have done this. Like, I just didn't even think about that. Like, yeah, those hands are weapons, and the ability to use them like that does matter.
Absolutely matters, and that's why guys that have violent hands and know how to punch. That's why Matt Pryor gets away with so much shit that he does. Is because of the violence in his punch. Like, if you have a violent punch, it can make up for a lot of deficiencies. Now, it's not going to fix everything. It's not going to make you a perfect offensive lineman. But if you are maybe a little slower off the ball, or maybe you do take bad angles at times, or maybe you have a tendency of, if a guy does get into you, you get worked a little bit. Well, if you can get to him early and often with those aggressive punches, you're probably going to win the rep more often than not.
Right. Now, this one, again, I thought he got worked by the backer a little here. Like, this was fine to me. Like he got his guy to Creed Humphrey cleanly. I liked that, but then he gets a bit of a hold there, has to let go, and just the run plays dead on arrival.
Yeah, I feel like that was just kind of an ugly play concept. Again, I think it's nice to see even a good offensive line still struggles in football games. I think
they all do.
They all do. Oh, you and I know that, Q, but to everybody else, the great offensive lines don't struggle in games, which is a total load of horseshit. Every offensive lineman's going to have a struggle. I just don't, admittedly, I don't love the way they block this. But again, first level first, it's a good pass off, and he tries to get to his guy. In fairness, Watt is blowing up the play too on Taylor. Like there's a lot of just muddy chaos. Joe Thuney's just looking
and at
like
the very least, I will say, he tries to define a run lane here.
Oh,
He
absolutely.
tries to clear the guy out to give that inside run lane and say, you can get there. Like, and I will respect anytime an offensive lineman tries to define a run lane for their runner.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Anytime a guy is going out of his way to give that, that's when you'll take that 10 times out of 10.
So this is on Benton again, and he just
no chance.
handles.
And it's those punches, man. It's those punches up front, and you see it immediately. And I kind of like what Trey Smith does. Trey Smith does again. This is not the technical term for it, but this is how I refer to it as. I call it the machine gun hands, where it's boom boom, and it's not necessarily a two-handed punch at the same time. It's kind of a almost like a patty cake punch, where you bring that first one and that kind of shocks them, and then you get him with that second one, and that's when you can lock in and engage and really control guys. And that's what you see him do here against Benton.
We got him against Benton again. So he's pulling out here.
Oh yeah.
Ron, I thought of you when I pulled this one.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, because you know exactly what I'm going to say. Well, he is technically hitting correctly. He is aiming with his left shoulder. So pull left, hit left. He's trying to get there. It's just Highsmith knows to submarine him and get lower. Mm-hmm. And that's where, and sometimes in these cases where if I was an O-line coach, if you see a guy getting low like that, you are absolutely welcome to go dive and submarine at his knees because it's completely legal.
Quick shout out to Elliot. Stick around. We got Dolman tape coming out.
We do have Dolman tape.
So we got you covered on that.
War is coming. I'm glad you thought of me though, Q. That means that we've done enough of these shows and my stupid little shticks are starting to stick.
Yeah. I loved how he defines this run lane again. I don't remember who 57 is. Is that Hayward?
No, 97 is Hayward. I can get you a number here, so we're not just.
But that right hand to just be able to shuck him out of the run lane and define it. And what we mean by define it is really just make it an easy read for the running back of like, hey, just follow our butts. Like we are in a line. This is the spot for you.
Hold on to your butts. Yeah, exactly. That would be Montavious Adams. He is an 8th-year defensive tackle out of Auburn.
Yeah, former 2nd-round pick, I believe.
I can let you know here in a hot motherfucking second. He was a Green Bay Packer, 4 years as a Green Bay Packer, played 1 year in New Orleans, has been in Pittsburgh since 2021. Only played 5 games in his first year in Pittsburgh, but since then has played at least double figures.
And Elliot, you can find me on Twitter at BuckHisStats. Most of the season, I'll put out every week a review of every Bears offensive lineman. I write an article over at ontapsportsnet.com where I do weekly breakdowns of the entire Bears offensive line. And you can find Ron at Loose on Tap on X.
That's where you can find me. I need to start doing some more O-line stuff, Q. I think I'm just going to keep replying to all your stuff because your stuff is so good.
Well, thank you. Right here, he just gets a little knocked out of line there. I didn't like sometimes I'll give a guy a negative just if I don't like the
process.
It just doesn't feel like they're committed to something and they're getting a little worked because of it, even if it doesn't necessarily impact the play. I felt like he got worked here, and I couldn't look past that for an okay grade. It was the play might not have been impacted by him, but I didn't feel like he got a clean block on anybody, and he probably should have.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like especially too once you're inside the red zone, like as an O-line coach, like I want you to sell out on this block. Even if you miss, I'd rather you aggressively miss than, like you said, look like you're not committed to doing something. Because he gets kind of high here. He gets his hat to the right spot, but then, like you said, there's really not a lot of movement, and then he kind of runs around the block. I'd rather him just literally just shove his face mask into this guy's armpit and just try to drive him out the hole. Is what I would rather see in that
something
situation.
We see Darnell Wright and Matt Pryor do a lot. Like
they're
not sound, but they're just driving the hell out.
But when you're inside the 5, you can get away with that as long as you're aggressive and you try to move people. Got to be a road grader, and that's the time to do it, especially in the red zone. You got to be a road grader.
This one just very clean, very nice. I thought that
beautiful.
That initial punch from him really gave a nice stun here. and then he's just able to continue in the rep and stay on balance, show off his anchor, his power. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I think too what's also impressive with it, like you said, Q, is showing off the anchor. You see him get walked back a little bit, but then he quickly recollects himself inside of his base, and then is just able to more or less just you've won as an offensive lineman when the D lineman's just like looking around you and trying not even to engage with you. That's when you know you won the rep.
And does this look like Caleb Williams, or does this look like Caleb Williams?
Greased up that guy. You will be very, very proud of this. Have seen a lot of my buddies in the last day now or so after the holidays here. And we were watching a game and the quarterback was running around. I was like, he looks like greased up that guy. And they all started laughing. And I was like, it's funny because go watch Caleb Williams now and think of greased up deaf guy. You're never going to look at it the same. And they were all like, "You're son of a bitch, you're right." And I'm like, that's cute. That's cute. And I can't unsee it now. So now everybody's going to not be able to unsee
I think I did hear it from, maybe it was Nate Tice or something who posted it. That feels like a Nate Tice thing to post. But I saw it somewhere and I was like, I just latched onto it. I'm like, it's perfect.
It is perfect. It really is perfect.
So you bring a blitzer at Trey Smith, he's gonna wreck you.
Yeah.
Linebacker against him is just not, it's not a fair fight. And
once again,
it's something every time I saw it, it was like, okay, he's wrecking that guy.
And once again, too, defining the run lane.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing to see him consistently define the run lane. And in this case, Pacheco follows him. He says, okay, I see where I need to go. I'm going to follow you, and we're going to see what happens.
And then one thing, this one, TJ Watt gives him the business. I think that was TJ. Maybe it might have been Highsmith, but he gives him the business. He keeps his feet, though. A lot of guys are on the ground from that, but I had to give him a negative here on this just for being a little late with his head and getting shocked by it.
Woo! I've had that happen to me before. That's not fun.
The ear hole? Yeah, no.
The ear hole, yeah. The ear hole. Because, like, usually the O-linemen are the ones doing the ear holing. Mm-hmm. So when you get ear holed, it's like, oh, what the hell, man?
That was a little payback for the earlier rep of just landing on him.
Yeah.
Didn't love his hands were, I don't know if they were predictable here or what, just missed, but the defensive lineman was, I think that's Ogunjobi, was just
that's Ogunjobi, yeah,
flying around him, and then he's just kind of stuck in no man's land.
Yeah, and at least he goes at the second level and tries to get up there. I mean, a really nice job by Kareem Hunt just to avoid Ogunjobi altogether because it's a really tough block for Creed Humphrey. But yeah, I agree. I think in that instance, it looks like his hands might have missed. I don't think he was expecting Ogunjobi to cross his face like that.
Yeah, to fly a gap back.
Yeah, and sometimes that'll happen. So, you know, he just kind of misfires. I think you would have maybe wished him to commit a little bit more to Ogunjobi initially, just to let Creed get there and get maybe a little bit more substance on him, especially because as you watch the linebacker, I mean, he doesn't scrape very hard. He doesn't come hard downhill. Yeah. He's scraping laterally. He's trying to read where Kareem Hunt's going. Still gets into the right space. And again, that being a great example of your running back setting up his blocks for himself. Kareem Hunt does a great job doing that in that situation. And, you know, ultimately Trey Smith makes a nice block at the end. But I agree with you. I think just that initial kind of punch was kind of fugly.
He did have some nice stuff down the stretch like this one, just catching the spin, saying, "You're not going anywhere, pal. I got you in a headlock here. Like you're done." I loved that rep, and the flag was not on him.
No,
I checked that before I put this in here.
Right?
I put it in here, and then I saw the flag come out, and I was like, I got to make sure this isn't on him because I can't be praising him for a penalty he got flagged on. You might have been able to get flagged on it, but let's be honest, that's half the blocking plays we watch. So
100%. There's no better feeling as an offensive lineman than catching a D lineman mid spin. Mm-hmm. There really isn't, because they're just defenseless at that point.
And this one just drives the run 57 right out of there.
Yeah.
Again, like his run blocking was really up and down, but like the flashes are loud and they're very nice. So I'm
agreed.
I really you're gonna have to pay this guy a lot. Like you're talking 100%. Like 5 years, $100 million, because that's what the top of the guard market is, and I think he's gonna make top of the guard market. Again, here we see him just giving the business to the Steelers nose tackle.
Things you always love to see.
Yeah. But I mean, you're probably talking in the range of like Chris Lindstrom, 5 years, 103 million. Robert Hunt, 5 years, 100 million. Like Sam Cosme's at 5 years, 70, or maybe 4 years, 74. So a similar AAV there.
Sure.
But you're
Yeah,
talking
and
some serious money on this guy.
I mean, you can make the argument too. I mean, yeah, Joe Thuney's making 26 a year, Nelson's 25 a year. I mean, Robert Hunt's making 20 something a year as a guard. Jonah Jackson's making 20 something a year as a guard. Dickerson. I mean, you're looking at probably cap hit wise. I mean, Zach Martin's the third highest cap hit guard for 2024 at 15.5 million. I think you're looking at Trey Smith probably somewhere in the neighborhood. And it probably would be a backloaded deal as well, just because that's how the cap's going to clear out for the Bears. You're probably looking, like you said, probably an AAV of something around about $20 million. Probably backloaded, of course. So probably year one, maybe he makes like 12, 13. And then some, in some of those later years, he's probably making like Robert Hunt money, which is like, 27.5 mil.
And probably somewhere in the range of like 30 mil signing bonus. So like he's getting a big chunk of change up front on that too. Maybe even 40. Like Robert Hunt was at 44 mil fully guaranteed last year. So you're talking some serious money on him. And that does make me a little nervous when I'm talking about a guy who's not a finished product. But ultimately, I mean, he's the best free agent out there. If you want the best free agent out there, you go get him. And I think the Bears should go make sure they get this guy.
Definitely. He's on the short list of like, absolutely no question. If you can get him to come to Chicago, go get him to come to Chicago.
Yeah.
And again, the beauty of the NFL, it's one of the few leagues where free agency happens before the draft. If you're able to get Trey Smith and maybe you get another offensive lineman, then you probably feel a little better about, hey, maybe we'll use in one of our top 2 picks to get another offensive lineman and really bolster this position. And then from there, though, you can go and get another edge rusher, or you can go get a running back, or you can go get another position of need across this team if you're able to get a couple of these guys in free agency when you utilize your money that you're going to have to spend.